Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. One of the levels that we mentioned that we're continuing to watch here is the previous month's midpoint. We've stayed in the upper half of last month's range so far through the first 2.5 weeks of this month, and we are sitting right on top of the previous month's midpoint. Again, as we mentioned before, failure to hold that level could open up a push back into the previous month's low. And right now we remain in a very clear short-term downtrend. Today, very modest failed new high and already a return back to the previous session's midpoint. If there is a failure to find acceptance back above 4,400 today, then we could be looking at an outside day down at the worst, or perhaps further range-bound action here with the potential to see further weakness up ahead in the days ahead. So again, right now this is a very important level. We're going to continue to watch it because a failure to hold that zone opens up the lower half of the range. And again, we continue to see trading range action right in here. We have that midline right in here, and that's currently right where we are at the moment. Are we going to see a bounce? Are we going to see a break? Given the current short-term downtrend and the current failed new high that's developed today, looking for the potential of an outside day down here today later on in the session. Taking a look here at the NQ, you'll notice here the NQ also holding right at the previous session's midpoint after a modest failed high here this morning or overnight. You also see that failure at the previous month's midpoint, which again, in the current context of this downtrend and a failure at that midpoint, would open up a return back to the previous month's low. And you know, again, right now, hardcore resistance at the 15,250. We talked about it right here. We talked about it back here. But we've also mentioned this key range has been good for rejections and traps. We've noted this level down here at the 25% expansion target, which has been a tremendous level at the 13,130s. So again, we could be looking at another new low here and then a snap back down the road. But as of right now, still trending down. And until we see a strong low like this or any of these, we're going to continue to go in a downward price discovery phase until we find that strong low. All right, let's take a look here at crude oil. Now, crude oil is down nearly 2.5% right now after pushing higher. We mentioned before that this move off the lower edge of the range here would open up a return back to 106. Above 106 could open up as high as 115, 116, and we got a continuation yesterday as high as the 109s, but hit a strong top and turned around, and so far we've dropped away from that level back to the 105s. So we're right on top of the 105 level in an uptrend on a short-term basis. A failed new low could provide an opportunity to get this thing continuing higher to 116, but 105 is the level right now. You know, a failure to hold that zone could push price right back down into the 96 zone as this thing continues to develop this type of range here. So again, we're kind of coiled up. Not the best here to fade crude oil in such a market that where the volatility is tremendous, especially to the upside. But again, any drop into this support continues to offer an opportunity to bounce it. Staying above 105 would be big and would open up a return back to 115, 116. All right, let's take a look now at Bitcoin. Bitcoin here with a decent turnaround in the previous session. It held the previous session's, the previous week's low price. That was a level we talked about early in the pre-market video, is that low right there. And we saw price holding it, and then a big rejection occurred, and the thing rallied back to 41K, getting back to the previous week's midpoint in one fell swoop. It was literally 3 hours from the previous week's low to the midpoint of the previous week, and you can see right now this thing is left behind a nice little buy signal on a failed new low at a very important area of support. Is this a good short-term support area right now for this? The last couple of times we've seen good rejections or reactions down here was here and here, and we've seen some pretty good movement off of S1 at that time, and those were prices sub 38 and into 35, 36. This time not quite that low, but it did get to 38,535, pretty low, and we got ourselves a failed new low with a turnaround. So right now Bitcoin looking pretty good. Bitcoin is above 41K right now. Remember, last week's midpoint is 41K. We've already returned back to it. So if it finds acceptance above 41K, it opens up the previous week's high price, and that'll take us back to the 42,800 level. 42,800 would be about right here. So we've already gone halfway up. This would be the continuation the rest of the week. Can we get there here this week? If so, it could be a bullish outside week up. So we're looking for a continuation back to the previous high if price can find a way to establish acceptance above 4,100 here today. Otherwise, you know, we could be hanging around with an upward bias here, given that this low is a new anchor to work from. All right, let's take a look here at ETH. This is Ether futures right here. Let's open these up a little bit. Let's do US fiscal right now. That'll open it up a little bit. And let's also make this 100 here. There we go. So right now what you'll see here is a market that is sitting precisely at value. Value's been moving from here to here to here because we've been in this range throughout the first part of the year so far. So again, very good market structure, very good range bound action. We are at value at the moment, so they're not the best edge, but at the same time a decent rejection yesterday. Not the best, but it rejected prices below 4-day lows and closed back above them. It also rejected prices below the previous month's low and closed back above it. And this blue bar right here would also signify a squat day. It can be a buildup of energy before you see a release of energy here and then there. So is this a buildup of energy before we see a bit of a bounce ahead? So right now, again, previous session's midpoint's very important. That's 29.77s. That's also precisely right where the previous month's midpoint is. That's kind of the zone to watch here early on today, tomorrow. If it can continue to hold, we might see a bounce back up toward 33, maybe a bit beyond. But right now, again, a failure to hold that zone would continue this thing downward toward the bottom end of the larger range. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.